Ready to dive into some seriously thought-provoking stuff. We're taking on The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And let me tell you, this book is like a masterclass in understanding those power dynamics that are always at play, whether we realize it or not. Greene does this fascinating thing where he compares like how con artists operate to how historical figures have navigated power, and you see these timeless and sometimes kind of shocking tactics that have been used throughout history. And the best part, these insights are just as relevant today, dealing with your boss, family, even just trying to get what you want in life. So you ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Let's do it.
Okay, law number one, and this one threw me for a loop. Never outshine the master.
Yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive, right? You'd think you'd want to impress your superiors. But Greene argues that sometimes it's better to play it a little cooler.
So you're saying make your boss feel smarter than you are. I'm not sure I'm following.
Well, think about it this way. If you make them feel insecure or threatened, they're less likely to reward you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I guess that makes sense. But how do you actually do that without, seeming incompetent?
It's all about subtlety, like acknowledging their expertise, giving them credit for your ideas, stroking their ego a little.
Oh, so it's like strategic flattery.
You could say that. A perfect example is the story of Nicolas Fouquet, Louis XIII's finance minister. He made the mistake of throwing this insanely lavish party, even more extravagant than anything the king had ever done.
Ooh, bad move. I bet the Sun King was not happy about that.
Not at all. Louis XIV was known for his love of grandeur and, well, being the center of attention. Fouquet's display of wealth basically made the king feel insecure, like he was being shown up.
Oh man, talk about a bruised ego. So what happened? Did Fouquet get demoted or something?
Worse, Louis XIV had him thrown in prison on trumped-up charges.
Whoa, that's cold. So much for a good performance review, right?
Exactly. The takeaway here is clear. Never underestimate the power of making your superiors feel powerful, even if it means downplaying your own accomplishments.
It's a good reminder that sometimes you got to play the game a little bit. All right, on to law number 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Okay, now this one just sounds downright devious.
It sounds counterintuitive, sure, but Greene makes a good case for why former enemies can actually be more reliable than close friends.
Okay, you're going to have to explain this one as I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it.
Think about it. When you hire a friend, you're doing them a favor, right? But that creates a sense of obligation, which can breed resentment if things go south.
I see what you mean. Like now they owe you one.
Exactly. But former enemies, they've got something to prove. They're more likely to be fiercely loyal because they're constantly working to earn your trust.
So it's like they're more invested in making the relationship work because they have to prove themselves.
Precisely. Take Emperor Sung of China, for example. He was constantly dealing with power struggles with his generals, right?
Yeah, I can imagine.
So instead of trying to befriend them, which could have backfired, he appealed to their self-interest. He offered them these cushy retirements in exchange for stepping down from their positions. Exactly. And it's something to think about in our own lives, right? Sometimes a former competitor or someone you've had a disagreement with in the past might actually offer a more objective perspective than a close friend.
Huh. Never thought about it like that. Okay, so we've learned to not outshine our bosses and to be a little wary of trusting our friends too much. What other counterintuitive wisdom does Mr. Greene have in store for us?
Well, let's move on to Law 3. Conceal your intentions, where things get even juicier.
I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So this law is all about deception, but not in a, over-the-top, mustache-twirling villain kind of way.
Okay, because that's what I was picturing.
No. Greene's talking about a much more subtle form of deception. It's about being discreet, blending in, using the ordinary to your advantage.
So it's less about being a master manipulator, more like a strategic chameleon.
Precisely. And it can be incredibly effective. A great example is this legendary con artist, Yellow Kid Weil.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of him. Wasn't he like the Bernie Madoff of his time?
Something like that. So Weil, he once orchestrated this whole elaborate scheme involving a staged boxing match.
Wait a minute, a boxing match? Now I'm really lost.
Hear me out. He used this boxing match as a distraction, a smokescreen, while he was busy pulling off a completely different con on the side.
Wow, that's pretty brilliant, actually.
Right. The Mark was so caught up in the excitement of the fight that he didn't even realize what was really going on.
It's amazing how easily we can be distracted when our attention is focused elsewhere.
Exactly. And it highlights how effective this kind of subtle misdirection can be. Another great example is Emperor Haile Selassie of Ethiopia.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't he known for his strategic cunning?
He was a master of it. He used calculated acts of what appeared to be weakness to disarm his rivals.
Like a wolf in sheep's clothing kind of thing.
Exactly. While they were busy underestimating him, he was consolidating his power.
So it's not always about brute force, but knowing how and when to play your cards close to the chest. Okay, that's some next level power play right there. So we've gone from not outshining our masters to using a little strategic deception. From concealing our intentions to crafting a persona, this next law is all about standing out. Law 6. Court attention at all cost.
I like the sound of this one. Tell me more.
This law emphasizes the importance of building a strong reputation. Green argues that it's not enough to simply be good at what you do, you have to make sure people know about it.
So it's like the old saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. Well, it's more like, it's not just what you know, it's how well you can get others to recognize what you know.
Okay, I can see that. So how do you do that? Start bragging about your accomplishments.
Not exactly. It's more about strategically showcasing your talents and achievements. Think about Thomas Edison.
Oh, like the light bulb guy.
Exactly. While undoubtedly a brilliant inventor, Edison was also a master of self-promotion. He understood the power of spectacle, of creating a buzz around his inventions.
Yeah, didn't he hold those big public demonstrations of the electric light bulb?
Exactly. He was a showman, but a brilliant one. And he wasn't afraid to hype up his inventions, even promising things that weren't yet possible.
So it's about being strategic and maybe a little theatrical in how you present yourself and your work. Okay, from attention grabbing to, well, something a little different, Law 11. Learn to keep people dependent on you. This one has me a little curious.
This law is all about leverage and understanding what makes people tick.
Okay, I'm listening.
It's about positioning yourself in a way that others rely on you, that they need you to achieve their goals. Think about Napoleon's escape from Elba.
Oh, wow. Good example. Didn't he have some help with that?
He did. His escape was actually orchestrated by his former foreign minister, Talleyrand.
Interesting. But how does that illustrate this law?
Talleyrand was a master strategist. He knew that Napoleon was ambitious, that he craved power. So Talleyrand used that to his advantage, manipulating Napoleon into a situation that ultimately benefited Talleyrand himself.
So like a chess game, anticipating your opponent's moves and using their weaknesses to your advantage.
Exactly. It's about understanding what drives people and using that knowledge to subtly guide their actions. Sometimes it even means letting others think they're in control while you're really the one calling the shots.
That's pretty next level stuff. It makes you wonder how often this kind of thing happens in our own lives without us even realizing it. So you're telling me that Napoleon's escape was all part of Talleyrand's master plan? That's wild.
It really goes to show that sometimes the most powerful moves are the ones made behind the scenes.
It's like that saying, the quieter you become, the more you can hear.
Exactly. Okay, ready for another mind-bending law?
Hit me with it.
Law 32. Play to people's fantasies.
Ooh, this one sounds intriguing. Does it involve unicorns? Just kidding. Kinda.
No unicorns?
Yeah.
But it does tap into our deep-seated desires and how easily we can get swept up in a good story.
Okay, tell me more. I'm all ears.
Green talks about this alchemist Bragadino, who during a time when Venice was facing some serious hardship, economic downturn, that kind of thing, well, he captivated the people with this promise of turning dust into gold.
Wait, seriously, was he like a magician or something?
He's a master storyteller, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But of course, it was all a sham,
Yeah, alchemy, not exactly a reliable get-rich-quick scheme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. People wanted to believe it so badly that they were willing to overlook the obvious.
Because hope is a powerful drug.
Exactly. And it just goes to show the power of tapping into people's desires, their fantasies, even if it means stretching the truth a little.
Or a lot.
Right, but that's the whole point. It's about creating a compelling narrative, one that resonates with people on an emotional level.
And it makes you think about how often we fall for that, right? Like those too good to be true promises we see in advertising.
Exactly. Or think about those get-rich-quick schemes you see online.
Oh, totally. Make thousands of dollars working from home.
Yeah.
Right?
It's all about playing to people's fantasies, their desire for an easier, more glamorous life.
It's a good reminder to, be aware of what we're buying into, both literally and figuratively.
Absolutely. Okay, ready to switch gears to a law that's a little less about grand illusions and a little more about subtle influence.
Lay it on me.
Law 44. Disarm and infuriate with the mirror effect.
The mirror effect. Now that's interesting. I'm intrigued. What's the deal with mirroring?
It's all about reflecting someone's behavior back at them, creating this sense of harmony and understanding.
So, like, you become a chameleon, blending in with your surroundings.
In a way, yes. But it's not about mimicking their every move, It's more about subtly reflecting their energy, their intentions, their communication style.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it, but can you give me an example?
Of course. Think about Sen no Rikyu, the legendary Japanese tea master.
Okay, I'm not really a tea person, but I'm listening. What's the tea on this guy?
Well, he was famous for his mastery of the tea ceremony. But it wasn't just about, brewing the perfect cup of tea. Rikyu was known for his ability to create a sense of harmony and anticipation with his guests, anticipating their needs and desires before they even knew them themselves.
Wow, so he was like a tea whisperer.
You could say that. And one of the ways he achieved this was through mirroring.
Okay, but how do you mirror someone during a tea ceremony?
It's all about the details, you see. Rikyu was a master observer, picking up on even the subtlest cues from his guests. He'd notice their posture, their expressions, even the way they held their teacups.
So he was paying attention to their body language.
Exactly. And then he would adjust his own behavior accordingly, subtly mirroring their energy and demeanor.
That's pretty amazing, like some sort of Jedi mind trick, but with teacups?
Right. And there's this great story about how Rikyu once used mirroring to turn a practical joke played on him into an opportunity to further charm his host.
Oh, I love a good story. Tell me more.
So Rikyu's host, a powerful lord named Yamashina Hechigwan, decided to test Rikyu's composure by setting a little trap for him in the garden.
A trap. Okay, this is getting good.
He had one of the stepping stones removed, knowing that Rikyu would likely stumble in the dark.
Oh no, that's kind of mean.
Right. But here's the thing. When Rikyu stepped into the gap and almost fell, he didn't get upset or flustered.
He didn't. What did he do?
He just laughed it off, as if it were all part of the plan.
Wow, smooth move. So how does that tie into mirroring?
By not overreacting, by going with the flow, Rikyu mirrored his host's playful nature. It showed that he was adaptable and had a good sense of humor.
That's amazing. He turned what could have been an embarrassing moment into an opportunity to further impress his host.
Exactly. And it's a perfect example of how mirroring can be used to disarm even the most challenging individuals.
Okay, I am seriously impressed. From turning dust into gold to reading minds through teacups, these laws are full of surprises. All right, from mastering the art of mirroring, let's shift gears to a couple of laws that deal with managing perceptions and navigating change laws 45 and 46. So law 45 is preach the need for change, but never reform too much at once. Sounds like a recipe for keeping the peace, right?
Exactly. This law reminds us that people by nature resist change, especially if it feels too abrupt.
Change is hard. I can relate to that.
Right. So Green argues that if you want to implement change effectively, you need to pace yourself, make it feel like a gradual evolution rather than a revolution.
So don't rock the boat too much.
Exactly. A great example of this is King Henry VIII's attempt to annul his marriage to Catherine of Aragon.
Yes, the whole 6 wives thing didn't go so well for some of them.
Right. Henry was determined to get his way, even if it meant breaking from the Catholic Church.
And that didn't exactly go over well with everyone.
Not at all.
Uh-huh.
His aggressive approach, defying the Pope and all that, created chaos and instability.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It led to rebellion, resistance, and ultimately a whole lot of bloodshed.
Not exactly the best way to win hearts and minds.
Nope. So the lesson here is, if you want to create lasting change, you need to bring people along with you, make them feel like they're part of the process.
It's about finding that sweet spot between respecting tradition and embracing progress.
Exactly. Okay, ready for another curveball?
Bring it on.
Law 46. Never appear too perfect.
Wait, what? Isn't the goal to be the best version of ourselves?
Of course. But there's a difference between striving for excellence and coming across as, well, too perfect.
I think I see where you're going with this. Like those people who seem to have it all together, perfect life, perfect job, always smiling.
Exactly. And while they might seem admirable on the surface, they can also be incredibly intimidating and even alienating.
Because nobody's perfect.
Exactly. And when you pretend to be perfect, it creates distance between you and others. They might start to see you as inauthentic or even suspect that you're hiding something.
So what's the solution? Should we start highlighting our flaws? Intentionally messing up in meetings?
Not exactly. It's more about being authentic, showing vulnerability, admitting when you don't have all the answers.
So it's like the old saying, it's okay to not be okay.
Exactly. Embracing our imperfections makes us more relatable, more human. And that can actually make us more influential in the long run.
It's like the idea that we connect more deeply with people when we allow ourselves to be seen, flaws and all.
Exactly. And sometimes acknowledging our weaknesses can even disarm potential rivals or critics.
Because it makes us seem less threatening.
Precisely. Now, a tragic example of what can happen when envy takes root is the story of Joe Orton and Kenneth Halliwell. Orton was this up-and-coming playwright, while Halliwell, his partner, was kind of living in his shadow.
I can see how that would breed resentment.
Yeah, and Halliwell's envy just spiraled out of control until, tragically, he ended up murdering Orton.
Wow, that's a sobering reminder of the destructive power of envy. But how do we apply this to our everyday lives? It's not like we're all surrounded by jealous rivals plotting our demise.
True, but we all encounter people who might feel threatened by our success or intimidated by our talents. It's about being sensitive to those dynamics, finding ways to empower others rather than make them feel small.
So instead of bragging about our accomplishments, we should focus on celebrating other people's successes, lifting them up.
Exactly. It's about creating a win-win situation where everyone feels valued and appreciated.
It's amazing how these laws, which might seem a bit ruthless on the surface, actually highlight the importance of empathy and understanding in navigating human relationships. We've covered so much ground today, from learning how to avoid the spotlight to becoming a master of disguise, even using a little reverse psychology. Green's laws really make you think about power in a whole new light.
They do, don't they? And I think the beauty of these laws is that they're not meant to be taken as, hard and fast rules.
More like guidelines.
Exactly. They're tools for observation, for understanding the often unspoken rules that govern human behavior.
So it's like having the secret decoder ring for human behavior.
Exactly. The more we understand these subtle power dynamics, the more effectively we can navigate the world around us.
It's like Green says, the person who understands the human mind can control it. But it's not always about control, is it? It's about awareness and using that knowledge to navigate these situations with, a little more grace and understanding.
Well said. These laws can be incredibly empowering, helping us build stronger relationships, advance in our careers, even just become more self-aware.
It's about recognizing that power isn't always about dominance or force. It's often about influence, persuasion, and connecting with people on a deeper level.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that brings us to our final thought-provoking question for our listeners.
Ooh, I like where this is going.
How can you apply these laws to your own life? What situations are you facing where a deeper understanding of power dynamics could give you an edge?
It's like Green is handing us this roadmap to navigate the complexities of human nature.
He is. And remember, knowledge is only valuable when it's understood and applied. So as you go about your day, you think about the laws we've discussed. Observe the people around you. Look for the subtle power plays, the unspoken motivations. It's like becomes an anthropologist of everyday life.
It's about noticing those subtle ways we influence each other, the rituals, the hierarchies, even in the most ordinary interactions.
Precisely. And most importantly, remember that while these laws offer a unique perspective on power, it's ultimately up to each of us to use this knowledge ethically and responsibly.
Wise words. So there you have it, folks, our deep dive into Robert Greene's The 48 Laws of Power, a book that's both insightful and thought-provoking, challenging us to examine those often unspoken rules that shape our interactions. Until next time, keep observing, keep learning, and remember, knowledge is power.